Welcome back to the secret underground lair. We have a new project on the table. We're going to build a cabinet. This is a fairly large cabinet. It's 92 inches tall, 22 inches deep, and 38 inches side to side. We'll have 4 doors on it. It'll open and close with some nice soft close hinges. And we'll have a 1.5 inch face all around the cabinet. One of the interesting features about this cabinet is the rounded top, the rounded corners on the top. Going to do some kerf bending there, so that's a new experience. I haven't shown that in the shop before. And had to clear off our work table here to make a little bit of room. So the sawmill has been taken off the top of the work table. And we'll lay out our sheet of plywood on it. First sheet of plywood, we're going to use 4 sheets of 4x8 plywood, 3/4 inches thick for this. And I'll go get the first sheet and show you how we're going to cut that up. That is today's adventure. Have one of these little panel lifters move a big piece of wood like that. So this is the plywood we've got. It's maple, and just kind of a quick wetting of this wood kind of reveals the coloration and the grain that we're going to get. So this is a lot more stable than what we did on the last little console table, which was a lot of spalting. This is a very nice clean bit of maple. Kind of a yellowy golden color. So it's going to be very nice, very light in color. So without any staining on it, that's what it will look like. Which I think is going to be pretty nice. But we're going to have a few conversations with our customer over this piece to make sure we get the coloring as close to what they would like as possible. So just kind of compared to a clean white sheet of paper, that's the coloring that we're getting. So color is a very difficult thing to determine when working with wood. So much depends on the light, the color of light, the intensity of the light. Is it daylight? Is it sunlight? Is it sunlight or is it artificial light? And what color of light are you using artificially? Are you using white light or is it kind of more of a yellow light? So very difficult. And then of course the wood itself takes on different coloration. Even the same piece of wood, one end to the other can be very different. So a little bit of a challenge in that regard. So you kind of have to get into the ish frame of mind when it comes to picking the color. You kind of want it to be this ish because it'll be varied over the course of the entire piece. All right, on this particular section or piece of wood, we're going to cut this into half, almost half. We're going to start with our cuts to get the sides of the piece. So we're going to get 2 sides out of this. Bring in another piece and I'm going to cut the top and the bottom and kind of what I'm calling the anchor shelf. That's the one that sits right between the the top and the bottom doors. That's going to be about 35 inches. So the piece is going to be constructed with the sides, and I have full measurements, I'll bring them up in a second. So sides will come up, the top of the piece is going to be attached onto this side and will curve around like this. It's going to be a 4-inch radius on the door. translates to be about 5 1/8 by the time it gets to the outside. So about a 5 1/8 inch curve here, and that'll run right across. So that'll be a separate piece, that curve, or the top will be a separate piece that will have the kerf bend in it. I know this is kind of difficult to see, but that is a silhouette of the cabinet looking at it face on. The ruler that I have there in the middle of the table is about where the shelf will cut across. So the lower doors will be below that line, the upper doors above that line. And the doors are set, it's a 60-40 split. For the top doors represent 60% of the height of the cabinet. The lower doors represent 40% of the height of the cabinet, less the little clearance that we have for the feet, for the floor. So the bottom of the cabinet is going to be 3.5 inches off the floor. There's a 1.5 inch strip there, and the floor sits in that strip. And then, yeah, we go up, split up like that. So a little bit of curved top you can see down there. That's a curved edge. And that's how it's going to be laid out. So I just wanted to get that perspective first. Just kind of help get orientation of the piece. And now I'm going to lay out the cuts that I want to make for the sides. So I'll take all these markings off, and we'll set up to do the side cuts. Or set it up to cut the sides, sorry. Okay, just a little more doodling on our side piece here. So this is the overall length calculation. I'll come back to that in a second. What I'm looking now is at the width. So the width of the cabinet is 22 inches from one edge to the other. However, on the front of the cabinet, we're going to have a 3/4 inch facing. So that means that the plywood itself that we're cutting is going to be 21.25 inches. And thinking ahead, along this edge, this is the back edge, there will be a 1/4 inch dado to accommodate the back of the cabinet. And here we'll have a 3/4 inch dado to accommodate that fixed shelf. And here we'll have 3/4 of an inch to accommodate the bottom shelf. And along the very top of it, this is thinking a few steps ahead, I'm going to need to drill 3 holes in here to accommodate aligning pins, so that the top can mount onto that and be perfectly in line and flush with the outside face of the cabinet. And of course, along the way, we're going to be drilling a whole bunch of holes down the sides of the cabinet to accommodate shelves. So we'll have a bunch of holes here, here, and here, and here. The shelf will likely be built with, or the cabinet will be built likely with 1 shelf in here, and probably 3 shelves in this section, although we can move a shelf around. So these shelves will be interchangeable and fully adjustable. On this side, I'm looking at calculating the length of the side itself, which is going to be 85 5/8, and did some calculations here to figure out the radius and how far down I want that to be. The length of this piece of the top is going to be a little bit trickier, but we'll come back to that in a little while. In the meantime, I'm going to take this piece that we've got here laid out on the table, and I'm going to make a rough cut just to kind of get it close to 21.25, so it'll probably be about 21.5. And then I'm going to do a finish cut on the table saw, but I'll just use a rough cut now to get this into something that is a little bit more manageable on the table saw. A 4x8 sheet is a little awkward. Okay, here we go with a long freehand cut. This is the factory edge that'll go up against the fence when we get the final cut. And on that side, I'm going to use the other side up against the fence to get the factory cut. And we'll wind up taking a little bit more than 6 inches out of this when we do that side. So, here we go. There is clearance underneath the table. I'm not cutting right onto the work table. So I have some pieces supporting this in the middle, and may come across that as we go. may have noticed I did put tape down there to help with tear out, just to kind of minimize that, and it seems to have done a reasonable job just from a quick look here. That's looking okay. So I'll get this tape torn off, get the table saw set up, and then we can run both pieces through at 22 1/4. All right, we're set up now to do this big cut. Fence is set to 21 1/4. Factory edge against the fence. This was our rough cut. What could possibly go wrong? This side, I do have about 6 inches that's going to come off here. It's not just a thin strip. So I do need to adjust the take up, or my little, need to adjust the outfeed roller here to line up with the center of the cut. So we're going to support that 6-inch cutoff as it comes through. So hopefully with that we'll get support for both the cutoff and support for the main piece. Okay, that's the 2 sides of the cabinet cut. And I'm going to now orient the pieces so I can get them cut to about length. Okay, I have my guide bar set here. The line is marked. I put some tape over it to prevent tear out. And we're going to make this cut now at 85 5/8, so that'll get this side cut to now width and length. Then we can work on some of the trim cuts. But we'll cut this guy to length, get the other side cut to length, and then we'll make our next steps. Going to give that a sand. One side cut to length. I'll set up the other side and we'll make that same cut. Second side is ready. Guide bar, tape on the joint. There we go. Some of you may be wondering, how can you use a handheld circular saw to get a straight cut? Well, I'll bring you over here so you can see how well this guide bar helps. So I have the bar, that guide bar set up against, flush up against the piece. You can see that is a very nice and straight cut. No gaps anywhere. No light, nothing. So I'm quite comfortable making cuts like that as long as I have my good straight edge. All right, we now have both ends cut to length and width. What I'm going to start marking out now will be where we want the dados. So there will be a dado about there for the center shelf, and a dado at the very bottom for the bottom piece. Then we'll need to run a dado down the back side, 1/4 inch, and I'll have to pick a side that's going to be the back side. And finally, I want to drill 3 holes, possibly 4 holes here for dowel pins to align the top when that gets built. So the dados that we're going to run here are going to be 1/4 inch deep, and they'll be 3/4 inch wide, obviously, to accommodate the plywood that's going in them. And before I do any of that kind of cutting, I'm planning to use the router to make those dados because I have a 3/4 inch router bit. But I'm going to do a test cut first just to make sure that that's going to be going to do the job. So let me set up a test piece and we'll come back when that's done. So there's the dado cut into a little test piece. And one of the tricks that I did on this is I scored the piece with an X-Acto knife just at the edge of where the bit was going to be cutting. So I have no tear out whatsoever on either surface there. So that's making a really nice clean cut. And with that cut in place, taking a 3/4 inch piece, that sits down in that dado very nicely. I just have a little tiny bit of wiggle room, but I figured that is good enough for, that's good spacing for a glue joint. Oops, sorry, I'm not focusing there. So there's some good spacing for a glue joint. I'm pleased with that. I think that's going to work out really, really well. So we'll make the dado cuts with that 3/4 inch router bit. As I said, that'll mean we'll have one about here in the middle and one at the bottom there. But I'm going to wait. I'll do that tomorrow. That'll be on our next video. Yeah, we'll get these sides dressed and ready for assembly. But drill some holes in here to accommodate dowels for aligning. So those holes in here, and then I'll mark and possibly drill the holes for the shelves. That takes care of the sides completely. So that's tomorrow's video. Thank you very much for watching, everyone. Please like and subscribe. See you on the next one.